in 16 days on August the 18th, there are going to be 2 races, okay, simultaneously that you need to know about, because although they seem separate, they are actually very much intertwined. They are one for Tiffany Moore Russell, who is going to be your next mayor of Orange County, and a woman by the name of Roberta Walton. Now, for many of you, you've never heard of Roberta Walton because she wants to be your next clerk of court. It is important to understand she is currently the general counsel or the head counsel for the current clerk of court, which is Tiffany Moore Russell. So you can already kind of see how these two are intertwined right now. One of them is running for mayor. The other one wants to take the position that outgoing person is moving out of. Pretty simple, right? Anthony, we following me thus far?
Yep.
Everyone's jiving with me on this one? All right. Now, let's get to the facts of this entire thing, because these two women have parallel stories that intertwine, but they start off extremely different. That's where I want to kind of talk about this. On one hand, you have a 21-year-old bank teller. That's going to be Miss Roberta Wiggins, or Roberta Walton at the time, back in 1996. We're going to talk about what she does as a bank teller. And then in the same decade, you have an Orlando young woman who goes to Dr. Phillips High School, goes through law school, and before she's turning 30, she becomes the first commissioner in the county. So you have two very different paths that these two women take. And I want to talk first about one, Roberta Wiggins, or became Roberta Walton. She is the one many of you are not familiar with. And I want to talk about how her life begins, and then perhaps you can start to make some inferences here for yourself. Back in 1996, Roberta Wiggins at the time, who is now Roberta Walton, she was a teller at Nations Bank in Tallahassee. Now, you would think, everyone, when you go into the bank and you give your teller some money or some cash, they're going to do the right thing with it. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Roberta Walton, was not doing things the right way. Let me tell you what happened. Now, there was a clerk inside the Georgia Department of Revenue named Fonsa Jeter, I can never pronounce it right, who actually stole 246 state tax refund checks. These are checks that people were owed. We're talking about checks for like, I don't know, $348, $546. You know, those checks that are coming in the mail at the end. Now, he steals these checks. The problem is he doesn't know how to get the money, right? He's got to get that money out of those checks. Well, he finds a way to get $230,000 stolen from people that were waiting on their refund checks. And the way he does it is through a middleman named Jason Hardwick. Jason Hardwick, stay with me, everyone. His job was to find tellers at banks who were willing to cash these checks in exchange for making a few bucks themselves. And who did he find? Well, Miss Roberta Walton. Now, this is all documented, everybody, but I want to lay out the story for you as a viewer. So at one time, you've got the current person who's in the clerk of court position. I'm going to lay it out. Tiffany Moore Russell. She's doing everything that I can see above board. She's doing the law school thing. She's from Orlando. She's got all that. Then you've got old Roberta Walton over here. She's not doing things the right way at her young age. She's involved all of a sudden in a check fraud ring over there in this whole entire thing, stealing checks, people waiting for their money they're never going to get. Between January 22nd and April 4th, Walton cashed 32 stolen checks, totaling over $26,000. For that service, she was given $2,000 by this guy, Jason Hardwick. The government states it very plainly in their case that she absolutely knew that the checks were stolen. Now, that doesn't mean that this woman had one bad day where she made a bad decision. And I'm not saying doing something like a DUI is in any way a good thing. But there was not like one decision that she made and then boom, we're just going to go ahead and tack this one on for years and years. 32 separate times, that woman stood behind a counter, took in a stolen check and said, I'm going to cash this Somebody else is never going to get this money. I'm going to get a fee for this. This guy is going to get rich. There's a lot of different ways that this can be looked at, and all of them are like, you're a piece of crap. All right. Listen, I'm one of those people who believes this. I think that people can make bad decisions, and I believe that people can change. And I can say that people are the people they are. They have character flaws in them. This right here shocked me when I actually had to think about, okay, this means that this woman sat there and looked at a name on a check and the person in front of her, knowing good well that wasn't the person, but said, I'm going to do the illegal thing 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 14, 26. Well, heck with it. We're just going to keep on doing it 32 different times. There were people that were waiting on that money. She was the inside person in this entire thing. Now, so these, like I said, some of these checks, $358, $429, $520. She was arrested in 2000 by the U.S. Marshals and pleaded guilty to 2 federal felonies. Guidelines gave her 6 to 12 months that she should have spent in prison. She didn't get any of that. In fact, she got 5 years of probation. All right. She cooperated with the FBI starting in 1996. She gave up 5 other defendants and testified in trial, and she was sentenced to that 5 years of probation in order to pay back that $26,000 she had, in fact, stolen. Okay, so now let's fast forward because, again, we've got these 2 timelines I want everyone to keep in mind. Fast forward now to 2004. That probation that she was on for that check fraud, well, it ended early because of good compliance. Cool. Good for her. 2005, civil rights for her were restored with the exception of firearms, which was excluded. That same year, she goes to FAMU, and she graduates with a College of Law in the first class of the reopened school. If people don't know this, they were closed for a while, and they reopened. Okay, now we're starting to see them start to collide here, everybody. Okay, remember, we had 2 parallels going. 2005, that happens for one Roberta Walton. Now, 2006, Tiffany Moore Russell is elected to the county commission at 27. Remember, I said she was doing everything the right way. She's the youngest in the county's history to be elected to be commissioner. Good for Tiffany Moore Russell back in 2006. Now, from 2006 to 2014, Tiffany Moore Russell serves her 2 terms, and she creates what is called a self-help center. It's listed as one of her accomplishments. At the same time, Walton is over there practicing law and doing her thing in some legal services for a community center. So she's doing her thing, and Tiffany Moore Russell is over here doing her thing, making her way through the county commissioner. She's termed out, though, all right? And so now what happens is in 2014, Tiffany Moore Russell becomes the county clerk of court. And late 2015, about 7 months in, all of a sudden, things start to collide between these 2 women. In 2015, about 7 months into that position as the clerk of court, all of a sudden, a new position and a job magically appears, everybody. And that a job is a part of a self-help division. The job was never posted publicly. It was posted inside, and it was posted for 5 days, and it was immediately marked pre-identified candidate selected. What do you know? 1 month later, Roberta Walton gets the job. She discloses her felonies on the application. So at that exact same time, I got to give Channel 9 some credit where it's due. They report on this and go, oh, hold up now. Something doesn't sit right with us right here. You mean to tell me you 2 women, you've got one that hires somebody who's got a couple felonies in a position that they just created without making the position public to anybody? Now, all of a sudden, isn't it yellow flags, everybody? Start to see how this comes together. Well, hold on, Pat. I mean, maybe it's just a coincidence. Yeah, except for, guess what? They were both sorority sisters and friends from everything that I can gather. That's right. They both were sorority sisters in this same sorority of Alpha Kappa Alpha. I guess they look out for one another, including creating brand new positions that were not even didn't even exist before. All right. So now Channel 9 does this report, and everybody in Orlando, I was here at the time, was like, yeah, this doesn't make a lot of sense. But the one thing that people said was, okay, she's coming into this position underneath the clerk of court. She's going to work directly underneath Tiffany Moore Russell. It's a cupcake position, though. Basically, she's just going to deal with some family law stuff. It's not a big deal that she's going to be involved in there with 2 felonies. And I think everybody started to forget about this entire thing, and it got swept under the rug. And for the last 10 years, you have this individual, Miss One Roberta Walton. Well, she starts rising up the ranks, everybody. From 2015 to 2026, she rises from self-help to family services, general counsel, and legislative director for the entire office. So you've got a pretty good promotion going on between these 2 women. One of them continues to be clerk of court, and her friend and sorority sister continues to get elevated within the exact department. So not bad, not bad. The only problem which starts to present itself is this. See, the clerk of court has a lot of sensitive information, everybody. And I'm not going to use the exact words here carefully, but let's call it an FBI database. And they have access to it. And one Tiffany Moore Russell, as the head of that department, signs off saying that everybody who has access to this FBI database is allowed and should have access to it. And in fact, this happened in May of 2025. Russell personally signs as the user chief executive officer for the FBI criminal justice system. She certifies that the office follows federal scrutiny rules. Very interesting that she says that. Now, Anthony, when was this? Shortly thereafter, I believe it was June the 15th, we received word from the FBI. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that that's?
Let me double check that date.
All right. So now you're starting to see that, okay, she says that everybody should have access to this thing. The problem is that the FBI has said that you cannot have felonies to have unfettered access into this database. And so there becomes this discrepancy right now between these 2 women as she moves up in the ranks. Should she have had access into the FBI databases as a felon, or did she in fact have that access in the first place? The question becomes, if the individual was just a family attorney doing family law, that's one thing. But when you become the general counsel, when you become the legislative director for the entire office, I think it's very clear that you have access into the FBI database. So fast forward to June the 15th, the FDLE puts this in writing and says any applicant or volunteer with a felony conviction of any kind will not be allowed unescorted access to criminal history information. And then they say the big thing. I want everyone to remember this. No certification on record has ever been received for this individual, one Roberta Walton. So they're saying that they've never received an application to even grant her access into this FBI database, which is very interesting. And the question that I want answered and why I feel that we have something here that doesn't make sense. If everyone is following me thus far, fast forward to July the 21st in a candidate debate. Walton Johnson addressed the conviction publicly for the first time. She said she had a previously limited arrangement with FDLE and says that she can sign any required agreements if she is elected, meaning that she already has spoken with the FDLE and said, I've got a previous arrangement with them. If I get elected to the clerk of court, I understand there's been people who say you can't access this thing with felonies on your record, but I have a limited arrangement with them and I know it to be true. That was back on July the 21st. Have we gotten that arrangement, Anthony? Nope. So my question for this individual, one Roberta Walton, is where is that limited arrangement that you have with FDLE. Now, for some of you, you're like, boy, this is boring. I don't want you to think about it this way. Let me reframe why this matters, everybody. You have someone that committed fraud and is a 2-time felon. Now, if we allow this individual to have access into the FBI, which includes warrants, information about prisoners, information about when they're going to do things and pick people up, these are sensitive information federally that this person would have access to. Does that not worry anybody? Don't we think we should guard that information with the highest level of scrutiny and security? I believe we should. And so when I would ask is, who is going to ask this question? I don't have access to her. I'll ask it right now. Miss Roberta Walton, show and display this limited agreement that you have with FDLE. Show me where they have said to you that if you become the clerk of court, that you can actually access in the FBI database, that you will be allowed to do that. If you can't, then we are electing somebody that we're going to immediately move into a legal battle. And you know what will happen, everyone? If you think the clerk of court is boring, which believe me, I kind of do, but let's be honest, everything comes to a halt. Marriage licenses, all this stuff, warrants being signed. You need someone who is qualified in that position to be able to do that work. And if this person can't, then we all lose. But more importantly, the bigger question to ask, do you want someone with felonies on their record having access to the county's and the country's most sensitive information? There is a reason that the FBI on the June 15th said this: any applicant or volunteer with a felony conviction of any kind will not be allowed unescorted access to criminal history information. There's a reason we don't want felonies on there, because it's a slippery slope. If you allow one felony, well, 2 felonies. Well, what about 3, but they're 20 years ago? Don't tell me that people can't can change. I agree people can change, but we have laws in this country for a reason. And what Roberta Walton, she has to answer to is, give us what you publicly said you have. You publicly said that you have a limited arrangement in place. Show me the writing for this limited arrangement. And if you can't produce a limited arrangement, then you are lying. And here is why I believe she is lying. Work with me here, everybody. Why do I believe Roberta Walton, who wants to be the head of the clerk of court for you, who wants to be the person who has that information, sign off on the warrants, is lying? It's because on June the 15th, the FDLE said no certification on record for this individual and no request for a determination has ever been received. So FDLE is saying, we've never heard of this person. We've never received a request from this person. And then she's going on in a debate and saying, I have a limited arrangement with FDLE. So either 1, she's got some private arrangement that nobody is aware of, or 2, she is simply lying and hoping that it's a boring enough thing for everybody just to ignore it. And then when she gets into office, she can worry about it at that time as an elected official. My opinion about this, everyone, and the reason I am so harping on this right here, is because we cannot allow felons to have access to the most sensitive information within our county and within our country. This person has already demonstrated 32 times that they were willing to take money away from people who needed checks from the government, like $528, and had no problem at the time putting it in her pocket. I am not saying that people cannot change or she's a bad person. What I am saying is that when you commit crimes, there are penalties associated with that. Like, she can't own a firearm, everybody. But yet, if she can't own a firearm, we want to go ahead and put her in charge of everybody who's going to get a warrant in Orange County. You want me to trust that she's going to do the right thing? I don't. I don't trust that. And my opinion is that this question needs to be answered before August the 18th. That's simple. Anthony, do I make sense so far? Because I have a lot of information to break down here for our viewers.
No, yeah, that It's a lot of
Ooh.
information. It's but no, I think you explained it really well.
Okay, so we've got our question. We have one question there for Roberta Walton. Clear question. We need documentation, and it's not coming from me. She said she has a limited arrangement. Now what she has to do is produce it. And if she can't, she's a liar. That's it. You lied. Either you can produce the limited arrangement or you cannot produce the limited arrangement. If she's already produced it, I couldn't find it, and I'll happily take it and say, hey, folks, I found it. Someone sent it to me. Looks like she had that limited arrangement. Good luck to her in the race. More power to her. But right now, this does not look good to me. This looks like an individual who's saying she had some limited arrangement during a debate because she probably got caught off guard by the question or didn't know how to answer it, and therefore said something that was not true and is hoping that basically everybody thinks this is too complicated and goes away. Because let me tell you what, I did the research on this one, Anthony. Great way to spend my Sunday night. Let me tell you, God almighty, I'd much rather be having a few drinks with you, you know?
Yeah, dude.
All right. So we've established our question there for one, Roberta Walton, who was Roberta Wiggins when she got arrested. Got it. Now let me talk to Tiffany Moore Russell. So Tiffany Moore Russell works with this woman for 11 years, right? A long time. They work together. All right. She's rising through the ranks 2015 to 2026. She's rising through all the way to be the legislative director and the general counsel for the entire clerk of court office. So these two women are working hand in hand. They started sorority sisters and friends, and now they're working hand in hand. One of them's trying to be the mayor. The other one is trying to take her place as the clerk of court. It's very clear where their paths interact. And what I don't understand from Tiffany Moore Russell is, in 11 years of watching this person rise to the ranks, and you also knowing from her 2015 application that she was a two-time felon, why did you never pick up the phone and call FDLE and get the approval? One call, one email, one submission would have done it. And you never did, Tiffany Moore Russell. You never made that call. You never sent that email, and you never reached out one time. And here is my theory. It is because you knew it would be denied, and you had a friend and you had a sorority sister that you were more interested in looking out for than the public and that the security of the information in Orange County and our residents. And it is my opinion based on this that you are not fit to be the next mayor of Orange County. That is where it becomes a question to me. It is not a question of, okay, do you have a limited arrangement? It's why for 11 years, as a person within your own rank, someone who reports directly to you as general counsel, why was a call never made? Why was there never any documentation stating this person right here is working as my general counsel with two felonies? I want to make sure she can access this database that I sign off on because I want to make sure that I'm doing everything above board. That's what you would do if you were doing things the right way. What I believe happened, and it is my personal opinion based on what I see, is two people who were friends didn't want to ruffle any feathers. And surely Tiffany Moore Russell didn't want to lose her friend who was moving her way well through the ranks and doing a great job of moving her way through government. Didn't want to lose her. Didn't want to say, okay, oh man, if I do that, what if they come back and say, no, you can't? Then we draw attention to it. You know what? Let's just leave this alone for right now. It's not a big deal. No one's asking any questions. Back in 2015, Channel 9 does their thing, but it's been 11 years. No one's going to bring this up. And if we do bring it up, we'll say, hey, listen, we have a limited arrangement with them. Except, got to give it to Bill Moore, who gave us some of this information, that when the FBI, when they come back, when the FDLE, I should say, when they come back and say, no, we never received anything from this person. So Tiffany Moore Russell has questions to answer. And here's what I would ask for tomorrow's debate. Someone needs to ask Tiffany Moore Russell, why for 11 years did Roberta Walton work for you and never once did you attempt to get an approval from FDLE for her to access the FBI database legally? Why was that question never asked? And my theory is because you knew the answer. You knew there was a chance your friend and your sorority sister could be kicked to the curb, and you didn't want to take that chance. So instead, you took a chance with the most private information of Orange County residents, and you said, doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. My friend had 2 felonies. She's my friend, and I'm going to look out for her, not the residents of Orange County. And I look at that, Anthony, and I go, shame on you. Ask the questions, ask tough questions. Tomorrow is the mayoral debate, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. This is what she needs to be asked. Why, if for 11 years you had the opportunity to vet your friend, did you never do it? Why? Was it not important enough to you? You sure as heck knew about the felonies. You are the person in charge of the most sensitive information in the county. Don't let that slip past everyone who watches my show. The most sensitive stuff in your life, if you've ever been arrested, if you are a felon, if you are somebody on a list somewhere, I don't know, this is the person that controls that. Don't you believe that that person should be held to the highest standard? The highest standard. And Anthony, these are the questions that I believe need to be asked. And I believe, number one, our investigative reporters have done a poor job in this county. Lord knows that's the truth. But papers, Orlando Sentinel, all of them. Why are we not asking poignant and direct questions like this in a way that everyone can understand why it is so vitally important that we guard against this kind of, well, possible corruption? All right. I'm not saying it is. I don't have all the facts. But I think what I've laid out here today, Anthony, is 2 people who have some questions that need to be answered before their names go on a ballot on August the 18th and people have a chance to vote for them. That seems reasonable to me. What are your thoughts, bro? I know I laid out a lot of information. Are there any, and by the way, I will take questions from anybody on this. I don't know if there's any questions that have come forward. I know this is not our normal, like, man, this is exciting stuff right here, but it's worth mentioning because of just how important this position is, Anthony. And I want people to know that although not exciting, it's not going to be a police chase that we're watching or, this right here is vitally important to the corruption that we have in Central Florida being rooted out. This position is essential to that right now. Anything at all? What do you got?
Honestly, though, I think you really hit everything because if they did it the right way and was like, hey, we're going to look into you, do all this stuff, and then get approval, then wouldn't we have this? It would just be okay if we got the approval, all this stuff. But what we got from the FBI saying that there was no approval, nothing, and they were saying that they did.
No, yeah, I want to say the approval. There was no inquiry about the person. They didn't get an inquiry and then approve or deny. There was just no inquiry at all to FDLE. Mm-hmm. So that to me says if you had a limited arrangement, Roberta Walton, okay, now FDLE, but FDLE is saying there's never been a name that's crossed their desk with you on it. Who's not telling the truth? Or who is this arrangement with that you made? This is a reasonable question to ask somebody who's going to be the clerk of court, who's already a felon 2 times for, let's be honest, deceptive practices. And again, I'm not saying that people cannot change, but do you have to look at this with a little bit more scrutiny and go, is the person capable of lying? Yep. I think it's pretty clear they are. And are they willing to lie to save their own butt? Yep, they are. That's not my opinion. That's what the person has done previously. And that is worth looking at here. And I believe that that's something worth discussing. And I hope that tomorrow, that's the kind of questions that we begin to ask. I'm simply asking 2 questions right here. One for the person who's supposed to or could be mayor of Orange County, and the other that wants to be the clerk of court for Orange County. And both women have strong ties together, beginning with being sorority sisters, and then one working for the other for 11 years. If there is questions to be left unanswered, I sure as heck don't want to put these 2 in positions of power when they've already shown that they don't have good judgment when working together. I think that's very reasonable right there, Anthony.
Yeah. We actually got a question from Bill Moore.
Oh, what's up, Bill?
He asked, let's see. The other question that needs to be answered is Kim Roberta Walton Johnson, if elected, gets a public bond considering that the traveler's bond application asks 3 questions that determine the level of risk. One of them is, have you ever been arrested for a crime? The other question relates to, have you ever had a bankruptcy? And the other question relates to, have you ever had a judgment against you? And Roberta Walton has failed to provide the voters any evidence of documentation showing that.
I agree. I think this right here goes back to transparency. And I think Bill Moore is absolutely correct in what he asked. We don't know the answer to these questions. So when I hear this, Anthony, I look and I go, I don't know the answer to that, but nor does she, or nor does the public. And when I look at the position of clerk of court, it is such a boring position to talk about. So everybody just kind of tunes out. We're not like we're talking about like the mayor or the sheriff or chief of police, like something like that. It's like fun, right? Everybody wants to tune in on that kind of stuff. When someone hears clerk of court, they go, oh boy, here we go. But when we look at it from the perspective that Bill Moore is bringing up right now, and we say, hold up now, hold it. Is this person going to be able to do their job? Yes or no? And if we don't know the answer to that, and we have an election coming up in 2 weeks in Orange County, in a county and in a city that, in my opinion, is littered with corruption all over the place, then don't we need to ask this question to people and get it answered before the election? Now, some people, oh, it's clerk of court. All right, well, whatever. I guess it'll work. We're talking about access to the most sensitive information that you can have. So, who do you want in there, everybody? Do you want somebody that's a felon? Do you want somebody who may or may not be able to do the work? Do you want somebody who said that they have limited access or at least a limited arrangement with FDLE, but FDLE has no idea who they are? They said they've never received anything from this person. And then also for Tiffany Moore Russell, if you know this and you've been working with this individual for 11 years and you could have cleaned this up anytime over an 11-year period as this person moved their way through the ranks, what do you care about more, your sorority sister or the county or the citizens of Orange County?
Yeah.
Anthony, I think I've laid that out about as clear as I can lay that out right here for everyone.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, there's a lot more information, but I wanted to make sure that I got through this because I need these questions to be asked, Anthony, and we have a mayoral debate tomorrow, and Tiffany Moore Russell is going to be a part of it. And I really hope that they ask this question to her and that there is follow-up with this county or the clerk of court position, and we get an answer from Roberta Walton. We will stay on top of this one, and I appreciate you all staying with me, okay? Because I know this one right now is not exactly the exciting subject that we like to talk about, but it is a very important thing for us to discuss. These two women have a lot of questions to be answered.